guess a colleague of mine would be a good word. Someone I knew through a business group that I'm a part of. He took his own life a couple weeks ago, and very young guy, really, really good person. Really enjoyed him and his spirit every time I was around him. And our producer Chris was also friends with him and knew him well. And it's just been really hard, really heavy. I'm not going to say it's been super heavy on me personally, but it's been mentally draining because it's made me think about things fresh in a new way the last few weeks. And obviously my wife is good friends with his sister, and we just wish his family well, and we pray, for them. And it's just crushing. It's devastating when people go to those measures of taking their own life. It doesn't make sense. And I'm sure there's listeners here right now who have had that personal experience with someone close to them. And I'm so sorry to hear that. And I'm just crushed for you on that. But what that has unlocked in me, and I was in a business meeting a couple of days ago, and it's really made me think about something that I've probably dismissed more times than not, and that's the topic of mental health. And just being transparent, being honest with you guys, I've always felt like that was a word people like to use loosely or attractive to use when someone just maybe had a bad day or was struggling because they made bad decisions. And in the last year or so, definitely the last 6 months, because of, you guys know about my brother who almost passed away from complications of COVID. That was a very mentally exhausting experience. Obviously, my brother's 27 and almost passed away suddenly. But I believe that, the majority of our listeners are male. And I believe a lot of us men struggle with this topic in one of two ways. Either you struggle with it personally and you're afraid to talk about it because you'll be deemed by your peers maybe as weak or inadequate. Or on the flip side, you just don't understand it at all. And you have no empathy maybe empathy is not the right word, but you have no connection to that reality. I would probably lean more in that camp. I can say I haven't really struggled with a lot of personal mental health issues, and I don't really have an answer for why that is at this time. I have some guesses, but I'm not compelled and feel good enough to say here's why. This is a subject I do want to be clear that I'm not an expert in by any means. I feel very touchy on talking about it because I'm so new into it. But I do want to talk about it a little bit today on a elementary level because I think it's important. I've watched my mentor the last few weeks really struggle with the after effects of this tragedy that occurred with our friend. And it just made me think and wonder to our listeners of the Down to Business podcast, we don't have thousands of listeners at this time. We have several hundred. But that's a significant number. And I know statistically that I think the statistic I heard yesterday in my meeting was that 40 to 55% of people struggle with mental health. So if I'm doing the math on our numbers of listeners, that's several hundred people who are listening to this right now who would be in the category of having some issues currently or wrestling with their mental health. So I just want to first off say and try to encourage you, one, you're not alone. There's people that you do life with on a day-to-day that are in the same boat. So if you're having a hard time being open and honest with where your mind's at, I encourage you to go get into a group, go to church, go be a part of a small group, a community, go have lunch weekly with a friend that you trust and confide in. Do something to get those words and those thoughts out of your head. out loud so that they can be put into the light. The second thing is, let's transition this into like the business owner realm. It is very mentally draining to be a business owner. It can be exhausting. It is exhausting. I don't want to undersell that at all. It is a difficult task. It is not as luxurious as people make it seem like on TikTok or social media in general or television, Netflix, Hulu. It is not for everybody. I want to be very clear with that. I think I've talked about this in past episodes, but I'm a man of faith, and my relationship with Jesus is extremely the most important relationship I have. And even with walking with Christ closely, some not as much as other days, I get mentally exhausted. That's my mental health. If I had to say, is exhaustion mentally. I normally am not physically exhausted too poorly, but mentally I can get there pretty quickly because I run really fast mentally. I'm thinking through scenarios. I'm in the shower thinking about X, Y, Z. My brain does not turn off most of the time until my eyes close. And I fall asleep very quickly, and it feels like I wake up very quickly. And I'm sure a lot of you guys as business owners feel that same way. I know, shout out to my friend Trey Lambert at Perfect Turf out there in Tulsa, Oklahoma. He and I have talked about this, where we're just running through so many scenarios, and who do I need to hire today? What do I have to pay bills wise? Am I going to make it till next month? Am I profitable? How's my wife doing? Did I call her enough during my work day? Are my kids screaming? Are they doing great? Am I missing something I wish I wasn't? Is this client worth the hassle? I mean, there is so many scenarios mentally that are there that as a business owner, you can run out of gas extremely quickly. And we all know, I've said this phrase before on the show, doesn't matter if you have a Ferrari if you don't have gas to drive it. Doesn't matter how great your business, in this example, your vehicle is the business. Doesn't matter how great your organization is. If you as the owner are out of gas, the company's going to run out of gas as well. And so I just wanted to go through kind of a few things to think about, hopefully challenge you in a humble way. My hope and prayer is that you had no idea this episode was going to be on this. Maybe you haven't listened to the show in quite some time. Maybe you listen every week and you never thought we'd talk about this. That's God trying to speak to you. I feel like God's timing is always right and just. And so I pray that this time, we're speaking on this, would really get you to open up, be free, and maybe some of the captive things you struggle with, you feel no longer bonded by. So I want to talk about a couple of things. The first one being just tired. How do we as business owners deal with mental fatigue? Well, I think there's a couple ways. And the way when I feel most, and it differs from person to person. For example, for me, when I'm physically exercising, I usually am mentally rehydrating, so to speak. So for whatever reason, if I'm playing outside with my kids, if I'm playing disc golf, I'm a professional disc golfer as well. If I am hiking, if I'm at Dollywood, which is where I'm going this weekend with my family for my wife's birthday, shout out to my beautiful wife, Faith, turning 28. But for whatever reason, if I'm doing something physical, normally I feel mentally energized. There are plenty of people that are not that way. It's like the opposite. They have to be sitting and reading a book. You might be this person to feel like you're being restored. So take it for what you may, but how do you gain back from mental fatigue? Again, I think it's preferential, but some of you may need to go exercise more. I know that my wife, for example, when she hasn't walked, getting some steps in, when she's been sitting or like chasing after the kids inside a lot, I can tell when she goes outside that she gets a little refreshed. When she has some time to herself, though, is when she's the best. So if I am able to get off work early on a Friday and take the kids for 6, 7, 8 hours, just me and them, I can see her come back that evening feeling mentally refreshed. So just ask yourself, we can't talk about it over podcast unless we're talking face to face, but just ask yourself, what do I need to do to have that mental rehydration, that mental restoration in my life, so you're not fatigued there. Another thing, a couple more I have, nothing too crazy, but often we can feel mentally heavy, meaning there's so much in our brains, there's so much going on up top that it slows us down physically, it slows us down emotionally, it slows us down from making really good decisions because there's just so much up there at the moment. And a couple things that I do, Chris can tell you this, I'm a person that if I'm confused and I have a whiteboard, I usually can get to the clarity point at the end because I have to get all these thoughts out so I can see where the crumbs are leading to the pantry. And again, that's just my example. You have to ask yourself, how do I get all of what's going on up here out, and so I can organize it and feel like it's in order somewhat. If you guys see, I have a journal. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see, or on Instagram Reels, I have a journal that I write. I actually have 2 of these. One's more scribbling for just quick notes, and one is for meetings. It helps me tremendously to process what I'm hearing if I'm writing. So you might be that person, but I challenge you for the mental health conversation we're having. How do you get that mental heaviness to subside? Look for journaling, look for talking, maybe go and listen to music while being in the bathtub for 30 minutes. You have to find what works for you and your personality and your lifestyle. But the point I'm making is, you got to do something, and you have to know yourself. So maybe ask your close friends, hey, when do I seem most relaxed? When do I seem most happy? When do I seem most joyful? And they'll say a few things. You go, oh, those are the things I need to do in order to get this mental heaviness off of me. So I think that is absolutely critical, guys and girls, in talking about mental health, is how do we get this mental, block of blah, blah in our minds that's always there as business owners, because there's so much. I mean, when are taxes due? When is registration on the cars? When's the oil change? Oh, there's brakes. It's just the list goes on. And then third, the kind of third point I wanted to talk about today is there needs to be a balance. Some of you may be introverts, some of us may be extroverts like myself. I usually feel energized being around people. I enjoy talking to people. Usually I don't love alone time unless it's at night. Nighttime seems to really bring I like to be alone at night, for whatever reason, but like 6:30 in the morning, I'm ready to go be with people. I'm good, for whatever reason. But one of the biggest things I think to kind of hone on in this episode, and ask yourself if you're spending too much time alone, not any time alone, or somewhere in the middle. And I want to challenge you and say, I do believe we all need alone time so we can get with the Father, get with our soul, and just have these conversations and be able to just breathe, exhale, kind of just take a moment, take some time to figure out where we're at. But on the flip side of that, if you're spending too much time alone, you can become captive to your own thoughts, your own feelings, your emotions, and your situations, that if you were with other people, they might help you see different perspectives and different sides of that. So again, in the kind of the third, I don't want to say point, but just third emphasis on this mental health conversation for today, business owners, friends, just ask yourself where you are on the alone spectrum. If you're too much alone time, not enough, somewhere in the middle, your personality is going to dictate which way you need to lean to that paradigm, but you need to be somewhere in a healthy situation. If you're not spending any alone time, you need to, so you can be introspective. If you're spending too much time, maybe you need to lean back this way and put yourself in outgoing situations, with community, with friends, with teams, whatever you need to join. So anyways, guys, I just wanted to have this this conversation with you guys today on mental health. If you're struggling, please reach out to us, Down to Business, Instagram, message us. We'd love to pray with you. I'll give you a call and chat with you for a minute. Chris, one of us will do that. But please do not, your employees, your family, you need to love yourself enough to think about this stuff and take some necessary steps. So, I love you guys. I hope you're doing well. I don't know because I'm talking to the camera, which is now you. So I wish I could speak to everybody, but I appreciate you as a listener to this podcast. And we're really excited about where it's going. The studio, the YouTube channel, the guests we've been having. I hope that you've been enjoying them. If you would leave us a review to tell us how much you're enjoying it, that would be appreciative. If you're not liking something, go on to our messages and say, hey, I didn't really like this, and here's why. We love for feedback there. This isn't, we're not going to be offended. We just want to hear because we want to help. That's what we're here for. So this is Alex Kirby, host of the Down to Business podcast, where your business, we make our business. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Implement what we've talked about here and go out there and crush it. God bless you.